They told us that Africa had no history, no books, no science, no writing, just oral tales whispered by firelight and lost with the wind. But what if I told you? Buried beneath the golden sands of the Sahara, in a city nearly swallowed by time, lies a forgotten legacy of scholars, libraries, and wisdom so vast, it once rivaled the great minds of Greece and Arabia. This is the story of Timbuktu, not the mythical Timbuktu of Western cartoons, but the real one, Africa's jewel of knowledge, hidden in plain sight. Centuries ago, before European ships even reached African shores, caravans of camels traced the veins of the desert carrying salt, gold, and manuscripts. Yes, manuscripts bound in leather, inked by hand, and filled with everything from astronomy to raw philosophy to poetry. At the heart of it all stood a city, Timbuktu. Founded in the 12th century, on the southern edge of the Sahara, Timbuktu emerged as a spiritual and intellectual powerhouse under the Mali Empire. It was a place where traders met scholars, where merchants debated imams, and where the written word was more valuable than gold dust. By the 14th century, under the reign of Mansa Musa, the wealthiest man in recorded history, Timbuktu had become a beacon for Islamic learning. After returning from his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, Mansa Musa brought architects, scholars, and books to his empire. One of the legacies he left behind was the construction of the Gingerbread Mosque, still standing today, crafted from mud and wood and echoing the brilliance of Andalusian design. But perhaps even more valuable than the mosque were the libraries. According to UNESCO and several academic missions, Timbuktu once held over 700,000 manuscripts, some hidden, others stacked in open-air libraries. These weren't just religious texts. They included medical treatises written centuries before European medical revolutions. They explored algebra and geometry centuries before calculus found its name. They held debates on governance, ethics, law, and even environmental sustainability, written in Arabic, Fulani, Songhai, and other African tongues. One scholar, Ahmad Baba, who lived in the late 16th century, reportedly owned over 1,600 books, more than most European universities at the time. He wrote about jurisprudence, theology, and logic, and he wasn't alone. Manuscript culture in Timbuktu was not confined to elite scholars. Even ordinary families passed down books like heirlooms. But here's where the tale takes a darker turn. With the Moroccan invasion of 1591, spearheaded by Sultan Ahmad al-Mansur, Timbuktu's golden age began to fade. Scholars were arrested, libraries plundered. Ahmad Baba himself was taken captive to Morocco. Yet even in exile, he continued writing, his spirit unbroken, his pen still sharp. Then came centuries of colonial distortion. French colonial powers labeled African history as void, primitive, undocumented, oral at best. They claimed Africans had no libraries, no script, no science. Timbuktu was erased from the world stage, and yet, it endured. For generations, the people of Timbuktu, families with no armies, no museums, no official recognition, protected these ancient books. They hid them in cellars, tucked them under floors, buried them in sand. Some manuscripts were passed hand to hand, wrapped in goatskin and whispered over like sacred relics. In 2012, during the occupation of northern Mali by Islamist militants, the world almost lost these treasures forever. Extremists stormed Timbuktu, threatening to burn what they called heretical writings. Panic swept the city, but in the shadows, a secret operation began. Led by local historian Abdelkader Haidara, and with support from international organizations, a network of couriers smuggled over 350,000 manuscripts out of Timbuktu. Hidden in rice sacks, sewn into clothing, and transported by donkey, boat, and motorbike. It was a cultural exodus. Not of people, but of memory. The story was captured in the documentary The Shadow of the Holy Book and covered by outlets like The Guardian, Al Jazeera, and National Geographic. But the operation itself, though praised, is just one chapter in a much longer saga. What makes Timbuktu so hauntingly powerful isn't just the survival of its manuscripts. It's what those manuscripts contain. Within those pages are centuries of African philosophy, arguments about justice, observations of stars before telescopes, and treatises on peace written during times of war. There are poems penned by women, letters between kingdoms, medical diagrams and equations scribbled on papyrus. Some manuscripts even contain dates and climate. Records that help scientists today understand historic droughts and migrations. So why, you may ask, has this treasure remained hidden? Because to accept the truth of Timbuktu is to confront a lie that has shaped the modern world, a lie that Africa was dark before colonization, that knowledge only flowed to the continent, not from it, that libraries didn't exist until Europe brought them. But now, as the manuscripts are being digitized, thanks to the work of institutions like the Hill Museum and Manuscript Library and local Malian organizations, the truth is re-emerging. Timbuktu's manuscripts are forcing historians to redraw the intellectual map of the world, and they raise a question no one can quite answer, if so much knowledge was hidden for so long in the sands of Mali. What else lies waiting beneath our feet? What other African cities, buried by time or politics, once stood as centers of science, diplomacy, or theology? What if Africa's greatest stories have not been lost, only silenced? Some believe similar manuscript traditions may have existed in places like Kano in northern Nigeria or Harar in Ethiopia, waiting to be rediscovered. Others wonder about the texts that didn't survive, the ones eaten by termites, flooded by rivers, or burned in the name of empire. We may never know the full scale of Timbuktu's wisdom, but every time a dusty manuscript is opened, another thread of Africa's hidden history is pulled into the light, and so the legend of Timbuktu lives on, not as a myth, but as a testimony to the brilliance of a people who knew that knowledge must be protected at all costs. If you want to explore more untold stories like this, stories buried, erased, or forgotten, then subscribe to History Off the Map. Like this video, share it with someone who still believes Africa was a continent without books. Drop a comment below. What lost history do you think we'll uncover next? Because the past is not behind us, it's hidden beneath us, waiting to be remembered.